Well, YouTube, it seems this event is finally coming to an end, and it's bittersweet to say the least. I've actually very much enjoyed this event, and being my first major one, it was a great event, at least in my opinion, but I figured it was high time, before it ends, to let Swire have a little fun. So we packed up the cart with everything she would need, brought her bodyguards along to make sure that she could have as much fun as possible. So she stormed the beaches and caused some chaos, and I gotta say, it was actually pretty fun coming up with all these strategies. Now, for those who don't know, Swire is my favorite character, and this event wasn't the kindest to her because, well, with all the physical dodge going around, it is an absolute nightmare for her. And with all that aside, I tried to figure out ways to actually make it to where she could do most of the damage, where she was the primary source of the destruction of these Durans. So I figured we'll set up the cart to freeze, give her some extra attack speed, and just try to guarantee that she stays out of harm's way. So my initial thought on this stage was set her up on the right side facing towards the left so that her 3-tile range would be as effective as it possibly could during this map. Now, I would have loved to have taken Myrtle out and put a defender and not had Gummy placed above her, but there was just too much going on. It took a little too long to take care of all the enemies. There wasn't enough uptime on the freeze, so they would continuously walk forward and we get swamped a little bit, so I had to have the double defender on the left side. But other than that, it went pretty smoothly. I think for the most part, Swire was the one doing a large majority of the work. Now, I can't go without saying thank you to the devs for the cart system, because it was actually such a great idea. I loved this whole aspect, and I really hope that they continue to do a lot more events like this, because this was absolutely fantastic. So if you have any suggestions for how I do something like this in the future, let me know. Maybe you want the commentary, maybe you don't want the commentary. I can play some different music behind it. Right now I'm just using the in-game music and using the in-game sound effects, but I can always change it, turn down the music, and put something else behind it. Just whatever you want. So this is kind of one of my first of these kinds of videos, so I just need to know what your feedback is on all of this. But the funny thing is, Gummy had one blocked out of Swire's range, and I went to the bathroom, so I didn't even notice that this was happening. So I went ahead and skipped forward, but it was like 3 minutes of Gummy fighting solo. It was the worst experience. I sat and watched it because I thought it was kind of funny, just to see how long it would be. But IC6 was actually a lot harder to plan for than I realized. I had initially put them closer to the far right side like I did on my initial clear, but I figured out real quick that was a bad idea, because I figured if I put her down to the left side of the stage, then their physical dodge would be gone by then. Now, the people I do have to worry about are the boxers, because after they get below 50% health, they activate the physical dodge for a short time. So the regular ones, the drunkards, I could deal with. It was the boxers that were a little more annoying. So once again, we're setting up the defenders, we're setting up her bodyguards to get everything going, and I'm throwing the cart down through her so that the defenders will block and the cart will run through that the entire way. That way I can kind of try to keep people in place. Now, the Full Metal Surfing instructors are a pain. Essentially, they are the anti-fun of this event, but I found ways around them. You know, I save Noir and I drop him right before they get there. That way I can guarantee the block on him, and the rest of them that are going to get through past him will get frozen over time. So at least in that way I had ways of dealing with them. Now, I had Moose in the lineup just to take out the bottom one, as it was just going to sit there and hit Gabriel the whole time, and it was really just an annoyance. And I figured, because he's out of Swire's reach, I don't want to take 50 minutes sitting there knocking him down, because it takes forever for her to kill one of them. She does not have the damage to deal with these guys. So in hindsight, it probably would have been good for me to bring Stewart, because unlike Moose, he's going to target the highest defense when he does it, so he would make short work of them. so that I could just continue on normally after. Now, of course, if I had used the explosive device, I would have taken out that whole group basically instantly when they run into the instructor, but I didn't want to do that because I feel it's kind of cheesy in a lot of situations. Now, there is later stages where I do that, but mainly because there was really hard ways of dealing with the stage, and since one of them kept leaking every time, I just kind of decided that it was probably best to use it to blow up a couple of the enemies. That way I can guarantee a block on one of the carts. Now, I did move everybody forward just so Swire could take out the rest of this, and it is a very, very slow fight. So I'm going to go ahead and skip forward. Alright, so this one was an actual pain because I had the strategy I wanted to use already incorporated. It was just finding the right timing with the blocks to make sure that the cars didn't slip past, because every time I'd have two of them blocked, the third one would end up leaking every single time. So I had to work around that and try to figure out a way. Now, I did throw Cliffheart into the lineup to try to pull some of the enemies into Swire's path, because, because she can't go multiple ways. She can only go 3 down one tile. So I figured, if I do that, at least there's a way that she's getting extra damage in. Now, the main initial cart setup is just to run all the way through my characters to get as much of the buff as possible, and then I'm going to blow it up on the wall in between Swire and the left-facing cart path, because in that sense I can get rid of a lot of the enemies that are blocking the paths of the car. So the main thing was guaranteeing that when I place Beagle back down in that spot to the left of Cardinal, that I will have a guaranteed block for the car, because every single time it was the car that would manage to wrap all the way back around, and there'd be two of them trying to go past Gummy, so it would leak every single time. I can't even begin to tell you just how many times I ran some of these later maps. So, it was a good feeling, even though it took me till, 2 or 3 in the morning, we got it done, and I was so happy. Now, I could have run the boss stage as well. It's just the problem is it doesn't feel like Swire's doing most of the damage if I have to bring in a friend support unit to get rid of the boss. So I figured we'll skip that for now. Maybe I'll try to do something with it later, or maybe people do want to see me try to do that. So let me know what you think in the comments. Like I said, I'm taking suggestions for any of this stuff because I want to make the best videos possible, and I don't know if people would prefer me to talk about it or just let you watch with some different background music. That's all up to you. So we finally get them kicked out of the cart. The passengers are on their own. I actually pulled Swire out and then waited to drop her again so that she's facing left. So if I do auto-deploy this map, I'm going to have to redo it because this would be the longest auto-deploy run ever. But I wanted Swire to be the one getting the satisfaction out of the final hits. So on to the final map, IC8. This one probably took the longest to plan for, and is one of the main reasons that I swapped back out for the explosion, because I'd taken that off after the previous map and then decided to put it back on to deal with the robots, because I tried many different things. I tried Steward, I tried Moose, but the problem is without Steward will attack the highest defense, but Moose will not. So if some of them walk by, she'll just hit everything else. So it was a bit annoying to drop them both down. So I figured, I might as well use the car because I need the cart to take out most of these other enemies anyway. So I took out the road path after to deal with the second robot, and once the second robot's down, I can fully drop everything that I need. I have a really short system set up to keep everything in place and keep it kind of controlled Now I do use gravel to wake up the waker uppers every time, so that they get rid of the attack speed and attack damage before they get to me, because if not, they just absolutely decimate whatever defender, whatever operator I have down, because they stack up. I do not get rid of them very fast. Obviously, if Swire and the cart are doing all the damage, it takes a bit of time to get rid of these guys. So by the third one moves much quicker, so throwing gravel down doesn't really do anything. So I end up just letting it slow go over here until I get to the corner, use gravel to stay alive as long as possible to drain out some more of the effects. Since she was in range of the actual proc of the cart, she was getting that extra healing back. So it was enough to keep the rest of my people alive. And then from there, it was pretty simple, just keeping them all in place until the Swire and cart combo could finish the job. So now that the video is coming to an end, guys, I want to thank you for your support, especially if you're still watching. I appreciate you sitting through all that, and hopefully the commentary wasn't too much. Like I said, let me know what you think. Give me your comments on what you want me to do for these videos in the future, and if you have any stages you want me to clear with Swire. But anyway, guys, that's all for me. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.